know?
Yeah.
Okay.
Madam Secretary, Governor Sisolak, and our clean energy partners, I want to welcome all of you to Nevada's 4th Congressional District. It's my honor to have you here, and we're here to talk about the need for clean energy jobs as we continue to recover from COVID-19 and to get Nevadans back to work. One of the sectors that shows tremendous potential and has for a while is the clean energy economy. And I want to commend Governor Sisolak and the Nevada legislature for a tremendous job once again in advancing these important policies, and to have a champion like our secretary here to talk about what we're doing on the federal level under President Biden's leadership to move these things forward. But I also want to ensure, as I have said before, that as we create these jobs, we do it for all Americans, including Black, Latino, Asian American, and tribal communities who far too often do not experience the same job opportunities as their counterparts. And as we're creating these new sectors, we need to keep them at the center of how we are going to promote the job opportunities and investment opportunities for those communities as well. And we must ensure that communities that they live in, the air that they breathe, that the water that they drink, their outdoor spaces are robust, clean, and healthy environments. So right now, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to invest in our infrastructure, including our clean energy economy. And there has never been a better time to get it done. After the extraordinary job losses created due to the pandemic, we need to right the ship and revive our economy. And the best way to do this is to pass the Biden-Harris administration's American Jobs Plan and the American Families Plan, which I'm committed to doing as a member of Congress. With the help of Secretary Granholm and my colleagues, we can make this a reality. A major provision of this plan is to expand significantly incentives to reduce carbon emissions, including incentives for clean energy generation, energy efficiency, and zero-emission vehicles. As a member of the Ways and Means Committee, which has broad jurisdiction over many of these provisions, I am also working to ensure that this bill is signed into law so that we can revitalize our economy and invest in America. However, these jobs must benefit all communities, including communities of color, who have been overlooked or left behind. I know I was born and raised here, and you're in North Las Vegas, and this is one of the communities that these policies must benefit as well. That is why we are here today with Secretary Granholm, Governor Sisolak, and our environmental and labor partners to discuss ways in which we can achieve this equitable goal. In addition, we must ensure that there is a jobs pipeline so that the workers have the skills that they need to contribute to this effort. Workers who have been displaced have the talent and the desire to work, but they may need specialized training to meet the current job needs. Through public-private partnerships, we can produce the workforce for our clean economy. And I'm so happy that Secretary Granholm is here today to see the tremendous energy potential throughout Nevada, and I look forward to this roundtable to discuss ways to create jobs for all Nevadans. And with that, I'd like to kick it over to Secretary Sisolak, and again, congratulations.
Thank you.
On such a tremendous legislative session and on your continued leadership on behalf of all Nevada.
Thank you, Congressman. And I didn't get promoted to the secretary job. That's the one right here. So I appreciate
Secretary Sisolak?
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I appreciate it, Congressman. Thank you very much for having me. And I really appreciate your help in coordinating this. And Secretary, it's an honor to have you here. It's just, it's amazing. And all you need to do is walk in the building and look outside and see the sun shining and know that we have a lot of renewable energy potential here in the state of Nevada. This forum is taking place at an absolutely perfect time. This morning, I was able to sign 2 important bills into law. Senate Bill 448, which is an energy omnibus bill that Senator Brooks can comment a little bit more about as we move forward, which is extremely important, and he sponsored that bill. And then my proposal, Senate Bill 430, which was a bill to improve and to expand on Nevada's infrastructure bank, which is going to give us the opportunity over the next 5 years to leverage that money into $1 billion worth of construction projects that are going to create jobs, which is what we're all about here. And I got to sign those at IBEW 357, which is a really friendly crowd. And they're so excited when you see the men and women of labor that are going to benefit from this, and we're happy to be part of it. I'm proud to say that Nevada, we are leaders in renewable energy, generating billions of dollars in investment in our state and tens of thousands of good-paying Nevada jobs, which is what it's all about to me. In fact, clean energy jobs are among the fastest growing job sector in Nevada, one of the fastest growing. And there's more jobs coming, thanks to Senate Bill 448 and Senator Brooks' help in this area. Prioritizing our new energy economy through this measure will support our recovery, create jobs, improve health, and our air quality, and reduce emissions. And like the Congressman said, we need the help at this time with our jobs. Our jobless rate was too high, continues to be high as a result of the pandemic. And this is going to take an important step forward for us. Nevada is the geographical center of the western United States. We stand poised to be the keystone in the next chapter of the western electrical grid, and a chapter that is cleaner and more resilient in the face of climate change that is real. And no one should doubt for a second that climate change is real. And as the Secretary knows well, it's not only good for Nevada, it's good for the United States of America. Senate Bill 448 will accelerate transportation electrification, transmission development, renewable energy, and storage, creating more jobs and a natural boost for our economy. And as I said, Senate Bill 430 will help provide the funding through the infrastructure bank that makes the critical infrastructure work possible. And I can only imagine how these job opportunities are going to accelerate and grow with President Biden's American Jobs Plan in full action. The American Jobs Plan complements Nevada's new energy plan for calling for $100 billion to re-energize America's power grid and transmission lines through tax credits. $100 billion. It bolsters Nevada's ongoing efforts and the new programs in its Senate Bill 448 to electrify transportation by building a network of 500,000 chargers and electrifying 20% of our diesel school buses, the ones that you see driving down the road that are transporting our kids to school, 20% of those we're going to electrify, which is absolutely incredible. And it will multiply the current clean energy workforce 34,000 as of 2019 by creating even more good-paying union jobs in the clean energy sector, jobs that pay good wages, jobs that can support a family. But this is about more than just jobs. It's also about reducing greenhouse gas emissions, especially in our urban areas, where poor air quality disproportionately affects historically underserved and vulnerable communities. It's about tackling Nevada's largest source of emissions, transportation, at 36%. It's about creating a strategy for statewide electrical vehicle charging stations, a network that will make driving an EV more accessible to all Nevadans and make electric vehicles available and affordable for everyone. Clean energy and climate action are intrinsically linked to Nevada's economic recovery and workforce opportunities. They all go hand in hand. And these measures, along with the incredible, and I mean incredible work of President Biden, Secretary Granholm, Congressman Horsford, and our entire federal delegation, will create the connective tissue in Nevada's clean energy economy. Before I pass it over to the Secretary, I want to say that the last time I had a Secretary of Energy here in Nevada, we're arguing about plutonium being shipped to Nevada without our knowledge. So it is so refreshing to have Secretary Granholm here in Nevada. What a night and day difference. And it is my distinct honor and pleasure to introduce the United States Secretary Granholm to lead us in today's discussion. Secretary, thank you for being here in Nevada. Welcome.
What a treat. What a treat. Thank you so much for that gracious introduction. It was great for me to hear your words. Thank you so much, Representative Horsford, for hosting and for your great leadership, particularly in the workforce training and your desire to make sure that we have an equitable spread for the benefits of these investments across. Senator Brooks and Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno. What a lucky duck you are to have.
I admit it. I am. I am blessed. Trust me. I know it.
You know, these partners who are such great leaders in this space. And so, I'm excited to be here with all of you, and we're going to have a quick conversation. Let me just say a word. I'm thrilled to be here today in particular because you signed these landmark bills, and to be able to amplify and highlight how Nevada is really, as a laboratory of democracy, which the states are, right?
I like that.
Showing the federal government what we can do on the federal level. So you are a step ahead of us. The American Jobs Plan is very complementary, as you said, to what you have done. So the $100 billion in transmission is one step, $100 billion, as you said. The 500,000 charging stations, you signed a charging station.
Yep.
Charging investment for charging stations today. The commitment that you have to invest 40% of, or to make sure that 40% of those investments go into communities that have been left behind, that parallels the American Jobs Plan too, and a recognition that we as a nation need to make sure that these are equitable investments. You have already led the way with respect to the 50% commitment to get clean energy by 2030 in Nevada. And the American Jobs Plan might pull you a little further because the president has committed to 100% clean electricity by 2035.
I love that.
All right, that's great. And parallels your commitment to net zero carbon emissions by 2050. So there's so much that is similar, and there is a significant investment, as you know, in workforce development to make sure that these jobs are really careers and not just one-off jobs. So it is really exciting to be here on a day when you have shown us the way about how we can do this, and we can parallel our efforts as we go along, because I feel like our hair is on fire in making this happen quickly, because people are out there hurting right now, and they need assurances. You said you have 34,000 people who are working in clean energy in Nevada in 2019. There was a dip, obviously, in 2020 because of the pandemic, like there was a dip, which obviously you guys saw almost more than any other state because of the hospitality and industry. But what we want to do is to make sure that your position in 2019, which was the fastest growing state for clean energy jobs, you were number one in 2019 for clean energy job growth. Wow. So we want to get back to that. You're number two in the country in geothermal, which is baseload clean power. We'd love to make sure that continues to be really front and center. You're number four in all the land in terms of utility scale solar. I bet you can get to number one.
We can.
Yeah, I like
with
that.
Legislators like this, we can.
And you have the largest gigafactory in the world for producing batteries here in Nevada. You also have amazing resources that go into the battery, which are the critical minerals. And if it's responsibly mined, that is another huge source of job creation. So you have it all, from soup to nuts. And what the president announced, the president has been announcing related to the American Jobs Plan, is that we want to be making these products in the United States. So another important component for the American Jobs Plan is an investment in manufacturing. Why are we getting 80% of the solar panels in this country that you are putting on your rooftops from other countries, from our economic competitors? We should be building them here in America. Why? The reason why Tesla and Panasonic have created this gigafactory here is because they want to ensure that there's a domestic supply. But apart from that, all of the cell manufacturing, the battery manufacturing occurs overseas. We should be making that entire supply chain soup to nuts. The president this week, we just announced and we put out a national blueprint for battery manufacturing in America. We put it out on Tuesday for the whole supply chain. Again, this is an area that Nevada would be poised to lead. And before I turn it over to you all, because I want to ask you some questions and learn from you, I do want to take this moment to announce, because we're in such a sunny place, that that the Department of Energy is putting out today, announcing an American-made solar prize. This is round 5. People in Nevada won this prize in round 3. This is round 5. We want to make sure that people will be submitting applications to take on this $5 million prize. We hope that we want to stoke some Nevadans to be able to participate. But the bottom line is we want to make sure that we create and build here the most efficient solar systems. And that prize is going to be announced today. And by the way, we're also investing today in announcing a diversity, equity, justice, and inclusion component of that. So we want to make sure that the software that is developed is software that will help solar equity. So that's exciting as well.
Great news.
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good. But I want to hear from the folks around the table who have been doing this work. And so maybe what I can do is start with our members of the legislature. So Senator Brooks, congratulations. Obviously, it's such a great leadership on your part. And I want to focus for 1 second on Greenlink, on the transmission build-out. And I'm wondering if you can talk about how, from your perspective, the build-out of transmission will open up clean energy, open up the state really to clean energy private investment. And I wonder if you could say a word about that.
Thank you, and thank you for joining us, Secretary. Appreciate it. Right now, Nevada, a huge state, but our population and load are really clustered in 2 parts of the state, the majority of it. And those 2 parts of the state aren't really connected by any transmission. There's one transmission line that connects the north to the south, and it's the capacity. It's pretty prescribed. What we could do by connecting all sides of the state is open up markets opportunities to go into east of us, into wind in Wyoming, for instance, northwest of us to the entire northwest Bonneville hydro system. And then we're adjacent to the largest load and economy in the United States, in California. And we are blessed by having one of the most liquid trading hubs for energy in the entire western United States, just south of where we're sitting today with the Meade and El Dorado and Marketplace substations. If we could connect the dots to eastern Nevada, to western Nevada, we would, like the governor said, we are geographically at the center of the western interconnection. All of a sudden, all of that energy that is can't get from the wind in Wyoming down to Los Angeles, or can't get from the southwest over into Northern California. All of a sudden, if we just build just a few lines, it all starts flowing through Nevada. And so I think that that's the key to creating a zero carbon energy future for the western United States and for all of the United States, is to be able to move that zero carbon energy around to when it's being produced, to loads when they need it. And Nevada is right in the center of that, and that Greenlink is the foundation for the next chapter in the western grid.
It's very exciting, and it's very exciting because, as we all know, with transmission, the 3 Ps apply. Who's going to pay for it? Who's going to permit it? And what's the plan for it? So you seem to have surmounted those hurdles, and this pay for is really important. So thank you for that. I'm going to ask the Assemblywoman, I know that there's a component of this that really impacts frontline communities. And I'm wondering if you can say a word about your thoughts regarding how this bill will help communities that have heretofore been left behind.
Oh, my goodness. Again, thank you for being here. We've heard this conversation over and over again with our communities of colors, and oftentimes from our senior communities as well, workers who have been displaced by other industries. People are not just looking for jobs, they're looking for careers. Careers that not just mom and dad can have, but the next generation can have. And so those are the conversations that we're hearing as we knock on doors, as we have town hall meetings. But listening to our constituents in our rural communities are like, how does this impact us? And how do we become part of this growing industry, making sure that the training is there, and not just in our larger counties, but in our smaller counties, that they can access this training. and making sure that they have a pathway, that open door job that gets you in the door, but then how do we excel and build upon that so it is a career for the families. Communities of color have been left out, as my congressman was saying, but I believe what we've heard during this last legislative session is we've made the pathway with this bill, but we're listening to our constituents. This bill was based on not just what we have learned attending conferences and what Senator Brooks has brought in his long career in clean energy, but actually listening to our constituents of how do we get it at their front door. There's that cost from bringing the electricity in our rural communities into that household. How do we do that? But in the hub of Clark County, on the historic west side, how do we make those homes more energy efficient? It's not just
American
those
Jobs Plan does that too, just
Yes.
so you know.
So making sure we'll do that. But as we talk about getting to green energy and clean energy cars, making sure there's a pathway to be able to afford what those vehicles are and building that out. And I'm happy to know that NV Energy is doing that, making those cars more affordable for our families. So I think right now we're at a point, and we have a legislative body, and we have our federal delegation, and we have this jobs plan and our governor that are making sure that there will not be any pocket of Nevada residents that are left out of this plan.
It's so great to hear you say that. And you have a president who really cares about making sure that, as I say, 40% of the investments of this $2 trillion plan are directed toward communities that have been left behind so that they're not left behind. So this is a moment.
It is.
You know,
and
it's
we
a
have to
moment.
capture
We're
that
all
moment.
really, yeah, exactly. We're fortunate to be here. Doug, can I ask you, as the CEO of NV Energy, you know, we talk about transmission and the benefits of it, and I'm wondering from your perspective, from the company's perspective, both from a integration onto the grid of renewables and what a transmission grid like this would mean from the business side, as well as perhaps what it might mean to ensure that we have a resilient and protected cyber attacks as well. Can you say a word about what a new transmission line like that might mean?
Absolutely. Thanks, Secretary. And, we are really fortunate to operate in a state that has visionary leaders like Senator Brooks, like Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno, like Governor Sisolak. And this transmission bill, the Green Link transmission bill, truly is going to position Nevada to benefit from this new renewable energy economy and this clean energy economy. What Green Link does is it provides, number one, reliability for our existing customers. Right now, as the senator noted, there's a single line that connects northern and southern Nevada. If there were an issue on that line, northern and southern Nevada would have to operate independently. It also limits the market opportunities that Nevada and its customers can take advantage of and limits the amount of renewable energy production that can occur in the state today. So as we build the components of GreenLink, we're actually going to unlock more than 4,000 megawatts of new renewable energy development in this state. That's going to happen in many rural parts of our state. It's going to create real jobs. These are union jobs, these projects. Not only is GreenLink going to be built by skilled union labor, but the renewable energy projects that are associated with GreenLink will as well. And now all of a sudden that energy becomes not only available to Nevadans, and as we found, renewable energy today is lower in cost. So we're actually lowering all Nevadans' energy bill, benefiting low-income communities, benefiting vulnerable communities. In fact, here in Nevada, we were able to lower rates almost $100 million effective January 1 of this past year.
Wow.
So we've decarbonized our economy and yet lowered rates for Nevadans. And so it's a great story, and GreenLink will help continue that. From a cybersecurity perspective, certainly having redundant paths over which we can transmit energy helps with having a more secure grid. If you were to lose one link of that kind of triangle that we're building around the state, we can still operate the grid. I will tell you, we take cybersecurity very seriously. It's something we invest a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort into. We're coordinated very closely with federal officials to make sure that we're learning from many of the events that recently happened.
Yeah.
but that we are doing all that we can to ensure that we have a secure grid today and in the future for Nevadans.
It's really interesting because everybody remembers the weird event in Texas, right, where they had not weatherized their grid, and because the Texas system is separate from the rest of the country, nobody could deliver power to help them. And so what you're doing is really making a seamless system where you are allowed to receive and send power and connect, which is really terrific. I hope that at some point maybe that will happen in Texas, but I'm not sure. So
We're not going to wait in Nevada.
y'all are not going to wait, right? Yeah, so thank you. Thanks for your leadership and your, NV Energy is doing great work, and it's a lot of work to do a transmission line. It takes a long time, and I know this is a big relief for you today.
It creates a lot of jobs along the way, too.
A lot of jobs.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about that with Ron. But first, I want to go to Rose McKinney James. So nice to have you here. I know you're a businesswoman, and I know you're a champion for clean energy. And I'm wondering if you can say a word about, for example, the goals that the private sector have been making on their own commitments to get clean energy, what a transmission line, what the efforts in Nevada are doing to provide that clean energy does for the private sector, and how the American Jobs Plan might be able to help as well.
Well, I want to add my thanks to you for being here, and to say that this is an exciting day is really an understatement around the path and the journey that we've undertaken. I think there is an absolute nexus to our opportunity to expand our businesses, to provide a significant contribution to our economy. Clean energy, for many of us, I'm also an advocate, has been sort of aspirational. We knew that we could find a way to create a connection between the resource and the ability to build out jobs and to underscore our community. What I think is probably the most important aspect of all of this is transmission is going to provide the foundation. We were talking about infrastructure and foundation. As we grow our economy, as our companies build here, and as we attempt to attract more, it becomes increasingly important that we have a solid foundation for our energy moving forward. It's long been my view that portfolio needed to include clean energy. And as businesses begin to think about their commitment to what we call ESG, environment, social, and governance responsibilities, that S around sustainability has a direct connection to customers, to employees. Their expectation is that we're going to be responsible in our corporate decisions, and we want to be active in a state that makes the types of investments that are going to be important to solidifying that future. That's why the American Jobs Plan is so important. That's why the federal leadership and the leadership that we see at the state level is so important. And we work to support those folks who are making the difficult and sometimes challenging policy decisions. Let's not think that this was an easy path.
Right.
This was not an easy path, but it is a path that is necessary. And so I think we are grateful for the leadership that we have in this state. So we thank the governor for his vision here. We thank the legislators for rolling up their sleeves and getting the work done. And we thank you at the federal level for making sure that we have the connectivity that's going to be necessary for us to move forward.
You bet. And I would think that, there's a lot of companies who are already here who have themselves made commitments to renewable energy, clean energy. I'm sure that a number of the folks in downtown Las Vegas have made that commitment. But I bet you as well that there is additional opportunity to lure companies who want to have, be able to purchase and clean energy. So it's a great marketing opportunity for the state, I would think, as well. Rudy, not Rudy. I'm going to go with Ronnie first. Ronnie, So you are here with the IBEW. I want you to say a word about what this means for union jobs. Obviously, electrician jobs, but also just jobs in the breadth of our brothers and sisters in unions. What does this mean?
I think that's a really good question. The first word that comes to mind is it brings possibility, right? The possibility, first off, when this first rolled out and we were looking at it, it was really exciting just to see how there was an administration that finally understood the importance of labor as a whole, the labor to strengthen the middle class as a whole, and how important that was to the American economy. And then we started diving into it. We looked at the infrastructure possibilities that we are currently living on a system of power and data that's been built by our fathers' fathers, and is in desperate need of an upgrade. And the potential job growth that this American Jobs Plan has is extraordinary. I mean, we, as the governor has already said, Nevada is a perfect place for renewable energy. We have the space, the sunshine, the geography. It's a prime location, and that we're already excelling in, and we're doing it with union labor. So there's so many people that want to have a good paying job, and especially in Nevada where there's a really big gig economy. There's a lot of people that are doing these small odd and end jobs just trying to make ends meet, but there's a hard time getting benefits. There's a hard time having a retirement where you don't have to work till you're 100 just to live your life, right? So the amount of possibilities that this brings for the expansion of that doesn't just bring clean energy. It brings the demand for us to create these jobs, and not just the jobs, but the training opportunities with our apprenticeship programs, where we could teach upcoming generations of tradesmen and women to come through and learn a trade, and go out and make an honest wage where you're not having to work 5 jobs to make ends meet every day, and you're able to live your life and have vacations and hang your head high on that kind of moment. And I think that comes from the top down, from the federal level to the state level. It all mirrors exactly what we can do with union workforce.
It's so great to hear you say that, because the president has just made this commitment to building middle class from the bottom up and the middle out, as he says. And he's overseas right now, and he's saying he's doing a foreign policy for the middle class. He wants to give everybody the chance to be able to occupy that place of a middle class where you have a retirement and you have you just are able to live your life in a way where you're not completely struggling. So it's great to have you here, and it's great that the president, the governor, and the legislature, everybody's committed to creating those opportunities. And you've been working in that space for a long time.
Nevada's always been known for strong labor presence. This is actually a place where the labor movement is growing. IBEW and other trades and other sectors, including hospitality. And it's because they recognize the partnership, in this case, IBEW with NV Energy and other solar developers, to create these good-paying jobs and to make sure that they are representative of the community that we have here in Nevada. And I appreciate them, because they hear from me all the time. I want us to be very intentional about women and people of color, because when you look at the single largest group that was impacted during this pandemic, everybody was touched in one way or another, but women and people of color were disproportionately impacted. And that means they have to be the focus and the center of the recovery. And that's what I really appreciate about the president's leadership around the American Jobs Plan and the American Families Plan.
Well, it's a great point, because I want to ask both Rudy and it's Verna to both weigh in on this issue of equity. I know, is it CHISPA?
Yes.
Your organization really worked very hard to make sure the equity components of this infrastructure bill were part of what the governor signed. And I want you to say a word about why and what that means for people who may not be aware.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you again for joining us today. We had the opportunity to work with Senator Brooks to incorporate what we're now calling the historically underserved communities, which we took some data. and developed a definition that would incorporate 40% of the investment into low-income communities of color, BIPOC communities, and low-income communities, ensuring that the communities that are being left behind, as you mentioned, are not continuing to be left behind and are actually getting an opportunity to get investments and start moving forward in this clean energy world that we're now living in. But we did have that honor to working with Senator Brooks and the rest of the legislators. But one of the things that we really enjoy about the bill is the investment that NV Energy is going to be making in communities that is going to allow us to put electric vehicles on the road in low-income communities. Oftentimes the conversation goes to, do we get an electric vehicle, but we don't have a place to charge it? So this is going to allow us to do both. We're going to be able to see charging stations in our communities. We're going to be able to have affordable prices with these vehicles and see that start seeing that transition in communities to ensure that our folks are driving the vehicles of the future that are going to reduce the pollution in our neighborhoods, which it's one of the things that my organization focuses on, ensuring that pollution and the health component is included when we're talking about clean energy. A lot of our families, our children suffer from asthma. I myself am a parent of a 6-year-old child who's asthmatic and has gone into respiratory failure and cardiac arrest due to one of those asthma attacks. Thankfully, he has survived. He's running around and healthy now, but that is a story that is oftentimes not just in my family, it's in our communities day in and day out. And that's what we want to fight, and that's why we want to continue working with Senator Brooks, Assemblywoman Danielle Monroe-Moreno, and the governor to ensure that our communities are having healthy, clean air to breathe, and that they have a healthy community to live in. So that's why we like this portion of the bill, and we are grateful that we got an opportunity to work with Senator Brooks on that.
I'm curious, what exactly does the bill provide in terms of charging station locations? Can you say what?
So that is something that we're still going to be working with both NV Energy and the Senator, but we're going to make sure that we're going in the communities that are most impacted by pollution.
Yeah.
So we're going to be looking at where highways are placed, where there's a deficit in gas stations, where.
Right.
So we're going to be working with both the Senator and NV Energy to make sure that those charging stations are put in real communities that are going to benefit from having them in their communities, whether that's at a local park, at a local grocery store, but making sure that they're accessible to communities at all time.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that because we want to learn from that, because the 500,000 charging stations that the president has put into the American Jobs Plan and the incentives to be able to purchase electric vehicles at the point of purchase to bring down the cost of electric vehicles are all part of that. And so learning from how you guys are figuring that out. Our national labs, the Department of Energy has these 17 national labs, and they're actually trying to map where the deserts are, where the private sector has not stepped up to put in charging stations so that we can ensure that the entire country really has access. So that's awesome.
And if I could just add,
Yeah.
Secretary, NV Energy, and I know Doug doesn't like to pat himself on the back, has been an incredible partner here in terms of making this happen, working with Senator Brooks. And we are so blessed. We've got our unions have gone with the apprenticeship and the labor situation. They're going into our high schools and recruiting people of color, recruiting
That's
people that didn't
great.
have the opportunity. And they've gone beyond that. They've gone into our correctional facilities to really give people a chance so that we don't have the recidivism rate. And it gives people hope for a future that when they get out, they can get a good job, a job that'll support themselves and their families. And I applaud labor for doing that for us, and NV Energy for being such a big part of that. And our partners, our advocates, and our legislators have just been, I'm lucky that I've got such great partners.
You are lucky,
I'm a
man.
lucky guy. I agree with you.
Well, Verna, let's pick up on this because I know you're the deputy director of the Nevada Conservation League, and your organization, too, has been working in this space to make sure that marginalized voices are no longer marginalized.
Yeah.
Say a word about that.
And I think that the language that we use is really important, right? Because oftentimes when we're talking about communities, we say that they've historically been left behind. And this has happened for so long that what we now need to do is transition that conversation and say, how do we put these communities on the forefront of energy efficiency? How do we put these communities on the forefront of job growth? Because that left behind language is, we've been using it for way too long, so we need to have that transition. I think what's really good about the American Jobs Plan and about Senate Bill 448 is that it emphasizes meaningful and targeted outreach to Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities, and it also ensures that our workforce is equipped for all of the new jobs of the future. And I want to applaud Congressman Horsford for supporting workforce development with IBEW and with CSN, the community college here, because we need to be sure that as we have new jobs coming in, that our workforce is equipped for those jobs. And, you know, a lot of folks, I remember when I was growing up, it was a thing to want to go to college. I went to college, but there's so many good paying union trade jobs that can pay you just as much as any college education job, and we need to be sure that as we're building our infrastructure, we let people know that those jobs are available. And I also did want to hit on something really quick that SB 448 does that I think is really good, talking about prioritizing historically underserved communities, is that it doubles the energy efficiency investments to be sure that homes that are not energy efficient can meet those standards. And that's really important because I grew up in a really low income community, and for some of us, we actually have to choose between paying our power bill or having dinner at night. So something as simple as investing in low-income communities will make all the difference. So I really do just want to applaud both of these pieces of legislation because they work so greatly together. And, you know, now that we have a format, legislation to lay out what we want to see in Nevada, if we can get funding from the federal administration to do it, we're going to be even further champions than we already are.
Yeah, that is a great point because the American Jobs Plan does absolutely intend to put funding into it for communities that are on the front of the line. I appreciate the gentle check you gave me on that.
Well, and Verna and Rudy both, they pushed this process. I know the governor and the legislators will attest to this.
Oh, yeah.
They pushed us
Yes.
to do more and to listen more and to be responsive more. Even when you feel like you may understand some of the challenges and you believe in the intention, they still hold us accountable. And I really think that that's an important part of this debate because a lot of communities do feel like they haven't been listened to, they haven't been heard. And I think with the leadership of our legislature, the governor, and what we're trying to do at the federal level, it's actually responding to the needs of people and the communities that have been impacted. And yeah, the history is bad enough. We don't want to just focus on the history forever. We want to focus on the future, and especially our children and their future. And that's really what the climate crisis and addressing that is really all about. So I want to commend you. You guys thank us a lot, but I'd like to say thank you for pushing us as advocates to be accountable to the promises that we make when we run for office.
Yeah, and like you mentioned Texas, right? We're so grateful to be living in Nevada instead, where we see a lot of really positive movement. We have a great legislative body that listens to us from the local level to the federal level to the state level. So thank you all.
Well, elections have consequences.
They do.
They do.
Very good consequences.
Yep.
Yes, thank you. Thank you to the advocates who, just are pointing the way to where we should be.
And a president that understands what we need, which makes a huge difference, and a secretary that, cares.
Well, we're all in the same boat. So let me just talk to you one last comment, if we can, about what this is for Director. Is it Bobzian?
Bobzian.
Got it right.
Bobzian. All right. I know that you direct the governor's energy office, energy efforts, and I know because Nevada is a beacon for other states, you probably are working with, or at least have a strategy to be in consultation with other states about how they can also move in this direction. I wonder if you can say a word about states working together in this.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Secretary, for the question and for joining us today. As you've remarked, we have a remarkable set of players here that are making all this possible, and the legislators are certainly deserving a little bit of time off, but they're not going to get too much time off because there's plenty more work to do. And we know that the governor's been working hard, and between the pandemic, between the legislative session, but he's also tasked the administration with making sure, his administration, that we're all looking at the jobs plan and trying to understand just exactly how we can put these opportunities to work immediately for Nevadans as soon as we can. The governor, back to 2019, before the pandemic, has been engaged in a conversation with other Western states as diverse as Oregon, Idaho, Arizona, Colorado, about the future of the Western grid. And certainly SB 448 and what it says in terms of setting the roadmap for transmission and the future of markets is the latest step in that conversation. And so we are ready for partnership across the West from the administration, from DOE, as we do this. So we're very excited about all of the transmission components of the American Jobs Plan, and I'm confident that you'll find, as the governor mentioned, we are a keystone state in this conversation. We are leading the way when we talk about a cleaner, more reliable grid for everyone, that the West is ready for full partnership with DOE on the future of a cleaner, more resilient grid.
Awesome. Well, that is great. And NV Energy, maybe you can just do the rest of the transmission needs across the West.
I think we'd be happy to look at it.
There you go.
Well, I want to thank you all so much for educating me and for joining us in a celebration, really, of a wonderful, wonderful step in our quest to get to the big goals of net zero carbon emissions and 100% clean electricity. And you guys are a great example. I am able to take your stories and put them in my backpack and take them back to Washington. And on behalf of the President of the United States, thank you so much for your example and your partnership with us going forward. So, bravo. Thank you.
And on behalf of 3 million people that call Nevada home, thank you for being here with us today and for
My
listening and
pleasure.
taking the time. And please convey to the President how much it means to all of us, to the regular, everyday Nevadans that are going to get benefit from these policies and procedures. It means the world to us. It's helping improve lives. So thank you.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Great.